There is something I want you to do right now. Go to your bathroom. Look at the bottle on your sink counter. The blue one, the green one, the one with the clinical label and the antiseptic smell that makes your mouth feel clean for about 40 minutes every morning. That bottle is not protecting your gums. It is destroying them slowly, consistently, and in a way that will not show up as obvious pain until the damage has already gone further than you want it to go. I know that sounds impossible. You have been using mouthwash for decades. Your dentist may have recommended it. The commercials show sparkling white teeth and confident smiles. The label says, clinically proven. And your mouth genuinely does feel cleaner after you use it. That feeling is real. The protection is not. And the reason most people over 50 keep losing ground on their gum health, despite brushing more carefully, flossing more consistently, following every piece of advice their dentist gives them, is sitting right there on their bathroom counter, being used twice a day, doing quiet damage that accumulates for months before anyone notices. I want to walk you through exactly what is happening, not the version your dentist has time to explain in a 15-minute cleaning appointment. The actual biology. Because once you understand the mechanism, you cannot unsee it, and you will never look at that bottle the same way again. Your mouth is not supposed to be sterile. That is the first thing most people get wrong about oral health. When you swish with an antibacterial mouthwash, the goal seems obvious. Kill the bad bacteria, protect your gums. Clean mouth, healthy gums, simple. Except your mouth is not a surface to be disinfected. It is a living ecosystem. There are over 700 species of bacteria that naturally inhabit a healthy human mouth, and the vast majority of them are not just harmless, they are essential. They produce compounds that maintain the pH of your saliva. They compete against harmful strains and prevent them from colonizing the tissue at your gum line. They generate nitric oxide, which keeps the blood vessels feeding your gum tissue healthy and dilated. They are, in the most literal sense, the immune system of your mouth. Commercial mouthwash, particularly the antibacterial formulas most Americans use, the ones with chlorhexidine, cetylpyridinium chloride, or high concentrations of alcohol, does not distinguish between beneficial and harmful bacteria. It sterilizes. It wipes the entire ecosystem indiscriminately. For about 40 minutes, your mouth is bacterially almost empty. And then the repopulation begins. Here is where the damage happens. Harmful bacteria, the strains that produce acid, inflame gum tissue, and drive the recession process, repopulate faster than beneficial bacteria. This is not unique to your mouth. It is a fundamental principle of microbial ecology. Aggressive, opportunistic strains fill a vacuum faster than the slower-growing protective communities they displace. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Clinical Periodontology tracked adults over 50 who used antibacterial mouthwash daily. After 18 months, that group showed measurably accelerated gum tissue recession compared to people using no mouthwash at all. Not slower recession, faster. Every time you use that mouthwash, you are resetting your oral ecosystem, and every time it resets, the harmful bacteria get there first. This process has a name. It is called dysbiosis, a shift in microbial balance away from health-supporting communities toward pathogenic ones. And it is the single most underappreciated driver of gum disease in adults over 50 in the United States. Not poor brushing, not genetics, not bad luck. A daily habit sold to you as protection, producing dysbiosis twice a day, while the tissue holding your teeth in place quietly pays the price. There is a second mechanism, and this one is less discussed, but equally damaging. Commercial mouthwash, especially the alcohol-based formulas, which cover the majority of what is sold in American drugstores, strips the mucous membrane lining your gum tissue. That membrane is not just moisture. It contains immunoglobulins, antimicrobial proteins, and pH buffering compounds that form a physical barrier between your gum tissue and everything your mouth produces throughout the day. Acid from food, bacterial toxins, inflammatory compounds. That membrane intercepts them before they reach the attachment sites, where your gum connects to your tooth. Strip that membrane twice a day, every day for years, and you are leaving raw tissue exposed with no buffer. The acid hits directly. The bacterial toxins hit directly. The inflammatory compounds accumulate at the gum line without a barrier to slow them. and your gums respond the only way tissue responds to chronic unprotected irritation. They pull back, millimeter by millimeter, year by year. The recession your dentist measures and charts at each cleaning, the pockets that get slightly deeper every visit, the tooth roots that become gradually more visible when you smile. This is the cumulative result of a barrier that has been stripped and stripped and stripped again, never fully rebuilt, while the product doing the stripping sits on your bathroom counter labeled as oral care. Now here is the thing I want you to sit with for a moment, because it matters more than anything else in this video. The people most affected by this are not people who neglect their oral health. They are the opposite. They are the people who take it seriously. The ones who bought the expensive mouthwash because the label said advanced, who use it faithfully every morning and every night, who added it to their routine because they wanted to do everything right. The damage from commercial mouthwash accumulates specifically in people who use it consistently. The more faithfully you follow the routine, the more consistently you reset your microbiome, the more reliably you strip that protective membrane. Diligence, in this case, accelerates the problem. That is why this is so hard to recognize, because you are doing everything you were told to do, and it is getting worse anyway. At this point in the conversation, I always get the same question. If mouthwash is the problem, what do I replace it with? Because the instinct to rinse is not wrong. Your mouth does need support beyond brushing. The question is, what kind of support actually works with your biology instead of against it? The research points to a few specific approaches, and I want to be clear that none of them are complicated or expensive. The first is the most counterintuitive. In many cases, the best immediate step is simply stopping the antibacterial mouthwash and doing nothing to replace it for 2 to 3 weeks. This sounds like doing less. What it actually does is give your oral microbiome the time it needs to begin rebalancing. The beneficial bacterial communities that were being wiped out twice daily start re-establishing themselves. The mucous membrane, no longer being stripped, begins rebuilding. Your saliva, which is your mouth's own naturally occurring defense system, loaded with antimicrobial proteins and minerals, starts doing the work it was designed to do without being neutralized before it can act. Most people notice something unexpected within the first week. Their gums feel less irritated, not more. The chronic low-grade inflammation along the gum line, the slight puffiness, the occasional bleed when flossing, begins to calm. Not because you added something. Because you stopped removing what your body was already producing to protect itself. The second approach that the research supports is oil pulling with sesame oil specifically, not coconut oil, which is what most wellness content recommends, but sesame oil, which contains lignans with documented selective antimicrobial activity. A 2019 study in the Indian Journal of Dental Research found that sesame oil pulling reduced harmful oral bacteria by 47% over 4 weeks, while leaving beneficial bacterial populations largely intact. That selectivity is everything. It is the difference between supporting your oral ecosystem and sterilizing it. 1 tablespoon swished gently for 5 to 7 minutes before brushing, spat into the trash. That is the entire protocol. It is not glamorous. It does not feel like the clinical power of a blue antiseptic rinse, but it works with the biology of your mouth instead of against it. And after 4 weeks, the difference in gum tissue inflammation is measurable. The third piece is nutritional, and this is where most videos on gum health completely miss the mark. Your gum tissue is regenerative. It turns over faster than almost any other tissue in your body, which means it is highly responsive to the nutritional environment you create. Coenzyme Q10, which your body produces naturally to power cellular repair in gum tissue, declines by roughly 30 to 40% after age 50. This decline directly impairs your gum tissue's ability to maintain the connective fibers holding it to your teeth. A meta-analysis published in the journal Nutrients compiled data from 11 separate clinical trials and found that CoQ10 supplementation produced consistent and statistically significant improvement in periodontal health markers, reduced pocket depth, reduced bleeding, improved tissue density. Vitamin K2 in the MK7 form plays a specific role in the periodontal ligament, the microscopic connective tissue anchoring your gum to your tooth root. Without adequate K2, those ligament fibers lose structural integrity gradually and silently. A 2023 study in the European Journal of Nutrition found that K2 supplementation produced measurable improvement in periodontal ligament density within 16 weeks, alongside a 28% reduction in inflammatory markers in gum tissue samples. And oral probiotics, specifically Lactobacillus reuteri and Streptococcus salivarius, have been shown in multiple randomized controlled trials to shift oral bacterial populations toward protective strains and reduce gingival inflammation by over 30% in 12 weeks, not by killing bacteria, by outcompeting the harmful ones and re-establishing the balanced ecosystem that your mouthwash has been dismantling. None of this is magic. All of it is biology. Your gums were not designed to lose ground every year. They were designed to maintain themselves in a microbiome that commercial oral care products have been systematically disrupting for decades. I want to say something directly about what you might be feeling right now because I know this hits a specific nerve for a lot of people over 50. There is a particular kind of frustration that comes from realizing that something you trusted, something you were told to do, something you did faithfully, was contributing to the problem you were trying to prevent. That frustration is valid. The system that recommended this product to you was not lying. It was operating from an outdated understanding of oral microbiology. The science on the oral microbiome and its relationship to gum disease has advanced significantly in the last decade, and the clinical recommendations have not kept up. That is not unusual in medicine. It is disappointing, but it is not unusual. What matters now is what you do with the information. Your great-grandparents did not use chlorhexidine. They did not rinse with ethanol twice a day. They chewed fibrous food, drank mineral-rich water, and let their saliva do the work that saliva has been doing for 100,000 years of human evolution. Their rates of severe gum disease were a fraction of what they are in modernized populations eating soft processed food and following modern oral care routines. You're not genetically destined for gum disease. Your oral microbiome is not broken. It has been disrupted, consistently, reliably, by a product marketed as a solution to the problem it is actually amplifying. Stop the disruption. Give the biology the space and the raw materials to restore itself. The tissue responds faster than you would expect. Within a week of stopping the mouthwash, most people notice the irritation along the gum line beginning to ease. Within 3 to 4 weeks, the bleeding when flossing reduces. Within 2 to 3 months, with the oil-pulling protocol, the nutritional support, and the microbiome restoration, the changes become visible enough that your dental hygienist will notice before you have to say anything. Before I finish, I want to address the question I know is forming. Is it too late? If the recession is already visible, if the pockets are already deep, if your last cleaning already came with a referral to a periodontist, is there still a point? For most people watching this, yes. The mechanisms these approaches target are active at every stage of gum disease, not just prevention. The microbiome can rebalance at any stage. The mucous membrane rebuilds when it is no longer being stripped. The CoQ10 and K2 and probiotic support works on living tissue. And unless you have reached the stage of significant bone loss showing on imaging, your tissue is still living and still responsive. If you have been told your pockets are deeper than 5 millimeters, or that bone loss is visible on x-rays, please work with a periodontist. That is not a situation where home care alone is the answer. But for the vast majority of people over 50 who have been told to monitor it and come back when it is worse, you are exactly in the window where the right inputs produce the most meaningful response. The complete protocol, the oil-pulling preparation, the specific probiotic strains and forms that showed up consistently in the clinical research, the CoQ10 dosing, the K2 form and timing, that is all laid out in the resource linked in the description below. Not a general overview. The specific details. Worth reading before your next dental appointment, because it will change the conversation you have with your dentist. And check the pinned comment. There is something there for anyone who wants a faster path to the full breakdown. I left it specifically for people who are already seeing recession and do not want to wait. Stop the mouthwash tonight. That is the first step, and it costs you nothing. Your biology will do the rest if you give it the chance.